let's just be real here. At any, in our lives, we have found ourselves looking for spaces either for, houses to live or premises to harbor our businesses. And I'm talking about looking for, commercial or residential spaces as tenants. Now, I don't know if it has ever gotten into your mind where you actually think of the key things you need to look out for in any contractual paper that you're given by a landlord to sign. And that's why I'm here. My good name is Lucy Efore, a realtor, a mentor, and a real estate advisor. And today, I wear that hat of real estate advisor because I want to guide you on the key things you need to check out before you sign any offer letter or maybe a lease agreement or a tenancy agreement, as we call it, in the residential space before you find yourself in, caught up in between a hard rock and a very difficult situation. Let's jump into it. I'm going to divide this video into two, commercial space and also residential space, because tenancies will occur in both dynamics. I've been in the commercial space for over 10 years now, and I can tell you, as part of my journey in the real estate commercial space, I have seen a lot of tenants frustrated, and it trickles down to how you navigated through reviewing an offer letter that was given to you voluntarily by a prospective landlord, and then you just signed blindly. All right. I've seen tenants, asking, why can't I leave a tenancy? So let's look at the three ways of how you need to look at a contract. This is a before you become a tenant. There's some key things that will be outlined in the offer letter. The during tenancy, like when you're a tenant inside, how is your relationship managed in case of issues, repairs, and stuff like that. And then also at the point where you're leaving the tenancy agreement, or rather you're leaving the space that you've leased out. So before then, you and your landlord, you need to agree on very fundamental items like the rent to be paid. All right, that's one of the things, and it's always contained in whatever, whether it's residential or commercial. How much rent do you need to pay your landlord? And how will it be, the manner in which it's paid? Is it paid monthly? Is it paid quarterly or yearly? That needs to be explained in black and white. Okay. Now, after 1 year, rent escalates. And when I say it escalates, it has to increase at a given percentage. That percentage needs also to be agreed. And I've seen, especially in residential, where rent could be increased, but you are never notified how that incremental aspect would be would be applied. So make sure you understand how rent escalates within your tenancy. This comes in as a commercial tenant. You could be in a premises for 6 years, and you've seen a lot of tenants say they can't allow you to exit. Now things are very tough. We've seen quite a lot of uncertainty in terms of business. There is what we call a side letter, because legally the Kenyan law does not provide for exit clauses in commercial leases. So if you go and lease out a space like where we've leased, I can't tell the landlord I want to exit after 2 years, because the law is very clear. I have to have a minimum of 5 years, 3 months. And if I don't finish that, then how do you cover yourself? Because you're probably not sure if you're going to finish 5 years and 3 months. So what happens in that case? You have to ask for what you call a side letter, where you expressly put in there how you're going to exit and what are the terms as per the landlord. You agree and you sign together that you've agreed mutually. In case things are not working for me, then I can leave on these terms. Now, that's pertaining rent. There's the other thing as a commercial tenant, where you need to ask for a fit out period. Remember, when you're fitting out your office to make it habitable, you're not supposed to pay rent, because that's what you're seeing in this market. But you're entitled to enjoy your possession regardless of you paying rent, but it has to be put in the offer letter. But you need to pay service charge. Now, for the new people who are here, let me just explain what service charge is in a layman's language. For the common areas in a building, common lighting, lifts, we have garbage, we have security at the main gates. They are paid from what we call a service charge kitty. And as a new tenant, whether you're paying rent, you're consuming these services directly or indirectly, and you become a partisan to, consume. You become a consumer of those services. So that's why you need to pay for service charge, and that also has to be put together. Now, there is the element of service charge and rent. You need to ask your landlord if your rent is inclusive of service charge or is it exclusive of service charge. If it's exclusive, then what are the determining factors that have derived the X amount of service charge you're paying? I don't know what your experience is, but I would love to hear this in the comment section. Do you pay rent per unit in terms of the premises, or do you pay per square feet? In most developed markets, you realize you pay rent per square feet. But then when you go to the CBD, you realize some shops are just paid a lump sum figure of maybe 30,000 or 40,000, depending on the size of the unit. Let me know what your experience has been, because when you get into the service charge element, things become a bit more complicated, which I don't want to complicate now. I will have a whole video on service charge and guide you on the questions you need to ask your landlords as tenants, right? Now, let's look at how repairs are done, or who really caters for repairs as a commercial tenant. Now, in commercial space, any repairs within your space, that is your responsibility. It's not the landlord's responsibility. Landlords will only come in to incur what we call capital expenditure kind of expenses. And this is anything revolving the building envelope or outside, like security. They want to put like what we call like, let me just say, cabrol. That's like very intensive in nature. But at the end of the day, capital expenses are expenses that are geared to add value to the landlord as much as the tenant, but it's more, the more weight is on the landlord but other than the tenant. And in that case, anything within maybe above has blown up, that is your responsibility, not the landlord. Now, I had mentioned about fit out. If the landlord gives you 1 month to fit out your office, it means you have what you call 1 month rent-free period, and after that, that's when your rent kicks in. So the lease could commence maybe 1st of July, and then you've been given 1 month. The rent will commence 1st of August. But the escalation, when your rent increases, will not be paid on 1st of August. It will be paid on 1st of July. So if you're out there, these are some of the things you need to check, so you find yourself, you're able to interpret these lease agreements and offer letters in a better way. And let me also just mention something about deposits, because this is also another very gray area. In commercial leasing, rent escalates every 2 years or even 1 year, but then you realize landlords will charge you deposit based on maybe the 5th year or the 6th year, the term of that lease. The reason why they do that is because it's very monotonous to keep on raising what we call security top-ups at the anniversary of each year, all right? This could be jargon, but don't worry. The reason why I'm here is just to let you know you don't have to go through all this jargon. We have professionals who can help you interpret lease agreements before you sign. I would say, as much as you take these documents to your lawyers, get real estate agents to go through them, and they can actually interpret them for you, because some of these contents that we put in here are market related, as much as there are some that are legally provided. All right. Now, at the point when you're exiting, the security deposit clause needs to state clearly that that deposit needs to be refunded, and at what conditions. Okay. When you get to a point where you're asking for your deposit and then deposit is not given, I would say yes, such moments happen, and they happen where you've not agreed occupation with the landlord on the landlord's premises. You've not agreed on the terms of exit in the side letter, and that's when now the landlord you'll actually leave those premises at the discretion of the landlord, at his own terms, not at your terms. And that is why it is wise to agree on these terms before engaging further. Okay. Now, there is also the whole issue of lease registration, stamp duty. I will leave that to the lawyers, because it's one of the gray areas where I've seen tenants saying, I want to pay my own legal fee. The landlord can pay their own lawyers. But I will just tell you this, these documents come from the landlord's advocates, and part of putting up that documentation is the legal fee that you pay. But then stamp duty is paid directly to the government, not to the landlord. So for the people who come and asking, why are we paying stamp duty? You need a registered lease, because in case of any dispute with a landlord, unregistered leases don't stand in court. You cannot argue out in court in case a landlord or rather you have any dispute with the landlord. So it's good to just follow the due process, have it registered. So in case of any dispute through the 6 years or 3 years, then you are covered. All right. Now, if you have any question around your documentation, or you're renewing a lease where a lease is coming to an end, there's what we call a rental assessment. And ideally, if you have a realtor who understands the market dynamics, they can help you to renew your lease at the market rates. Because at times, landlords enjoy what we call profit rent. This is where the rent, or this contract gives you more rent than what the market is providing. And in that case, at the end of your lease, you can actually get a consultant who can actually run a rental assessment for you and ideally guide you on the best rent to renew your lease. And you find yourself saving quite a lot of money out of a 6-year lease. And it's good to always find yourself working with professionals, because I've picked up quite a number of business owners. They sign up these lease agreements out of emotions, because you're excited about your business, you're excited about the location, but then you don't really look into the nitty-gritties in between. I call them, the devil is in between the line. Please get someone to read that for you. I've just highlighted very few clauses. This is a document that has 34 clauses. For me, I've just highlighted very few. What happens if I don't pay my rent? At how many days can my rent remain unpaid? And what are the measures provided? Those are the things you need to look at, because I'll tell you for a fact, when that rent is not paid, that's when you will see the real landlord in their true colors, because that's their core business. If they don't collect, they're out of business. And also, business at the end of the day, it's not smooth. Like now, we've seen a lot of political instability that is causing a lot of disruptions when it comes to cash flows. And with that, you need also to provide a cautionary measure where, in case of such, what avenue do you have to, speak? Do you have like a leeway you can sit down and talk to your landlord about when these things happen? And with that said, I would say for anyone out there looking for a commercial space, don't look further. Reach out to your girl, Lucy Efore. I'll be here to walk the journey with you in terms of site acquisition, getting a location that really fits your business. Then also we can go through the negotiating aspect of negotiating favorable lease terms for you, and walk with you the journey of having a good location, favorable terms, and also at the point of exiting or renewing your lease, I can always be there for you. If this is something you feel like someone can benefit on it, please feel free to share and like my video, and also don't forget to hit that notification button so you don't miss out on this advisory information that can help you save yourself and your business a lot of money. I'm your girl, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.